Hello everyone, this is Gage from Gondor and Smith, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys yet another Third Age Reforged online multiplayer battle replay. This one is a 2 versus 2, and I myself am commanding the army of Gondor. My ally is Reprise commanding the army of Rohan, which is very cool because, as we all know, Rohan and Gondor have been in alliance for many ages. Anyway, the two enemy forces are Honeybutton Badgers commanding the army of Isengard, and Stewed Fungus, who is commanding the army of Mordor, who is deployed way over here. A lot of his troops up here on the hill and some down there. Anyway, before we get any further, I would like to apologize for not uploading for some time. I believe it's been like 2.5 weeks, maybe? I don't know. I've just been really busy, unfortunately, and again, I wanted to get out either the 300 subscriber special or the next part in the War of the Dwarves versus Elves. And I've been trying to get the Dwarves versus Elves for quite some time, but unfortunately it's just really hard to actually balance out because what's happening next in that series is Elves defending a neutral castle against the Dwarves who are attacking. But every time so far, the Dwarves have utterly destroyed the Elves with only like 50% of the Dwarven army gone. And obviously I don't really want to upload that because I tend to want to upload close battles, but unfortunately this one actually isn't that close. But again, this is just because I really wanted to upload a video because I haven't uploaded one in some time. So anyway, before we get any further, I will go ahead and go into the army compositions, starting with my own. So I have one unit of Wardens of the White Tower, which is where my general is in loose formation. These guys are a very elite sword and shield unit. They can't really get as many kills most of the time as the Sons of Argonath say, but they can definitely hold a line much better than the Sons of Argonath. Not to mention they have quite a few more in the actual unit. They also have 2 to 3 hit points, I believe. Almost 50 defense and like around 20 or so attack. I also have 2 units of Lothernok Nobles, who are a very nice shock infantry unit of Gondor's. One of the only, or one of the few, I should say, AP units that Gondor actually has. They're very nice because they are pretty elite and don't actually cost that much money. They have like 30 attack, 28 defense, but obviously their main issue is getting shot to death by arrows, javelins, anything of the like. And they also have one unit of Sons of Argonath, who are a very elite shock infantry unit as well. However, they are not AP because they do have great swords, and you can't really see it here in the dark, but I actually did not notice until just recently. The Sons of Argonath actually have like etchings and markings on their swords, but obviously I don't know what they are because I do not speak Elvish, which is, I assume, what it's written in, but I do not know for sure. Anyway, yeah, they do have like 3 hit points, 37 attack, 44 defense, something like that. The unit of Lothernok Nobles. I also have 5 units of Gondor infantry. 2 are here, the other 3 are back there. I also have 2 units of Pelargir Marines, a nice javelin unit. They don't have as much damage for a javelin unit as most of the other higher, like, elite ones. However, they are a lot cheaper than those ones. But that also means you have to be very careful with them in melee because they will not do well at all. I also have 1 unit of Citadel Bodyguard. I always like to bring these guys when I can because even though they're pretty expensive, they can hold the line very well. They have multiple hit points and they are actually effective against armor. I also have 2 units of Veterans of Osgiliath, who I really love. Both of these Veterans of Osgiliath actually have both of the armor upgrades, which really makes them look very nice. These guys actually have 2 hit points, 16 attack, and I believe 40 some defense. So even though they don't have very much actual missile damage, I believe it's only 9. Once they do run out of ammo, they can do very well in melee. I also have 1 Ballistic, which actually does very well in this battle. I also have 1 unit of Athelian Rangers, which obviously they cannot really do that well in a skirmish on skirmish fight because they are lightly armored. However, they can pour down the arrows pretty quickly. Jeez, I can't talk today. Anyway, I also have 1 unit of Shielded Fountain Guard. I normally like to bring the normal Fountain Guard because the Shielded Fountain Guard I'm not a huge fan of, just because they seem to be really not that good whenever I used them. However, this time I decided to try to give them another try. And to round off my force, I have 2 units of Axemen of Lothernok over here in the trees. They're actually not hiding, but I kind of wanted them to be, just so I can maybe try to flank around a Mordor once they came over here. And I believe that pretty much does it for my army composition. However, you can see that most of my units actually are hiding. I believe that is one of the things that makes Gondor pretty good. A lot of people underestimate on how many of the Gondorian units actually can hide. So we will now quickly go over to my ally. And he has 1 unit of Helmhammers, which is where his general is. They're a very nice melee unit. They are effective against armor because they do have hammers rather than swords. And obviously because they're huge shields, they are very defensive focused. Pretty much, well, very similar to the Wardens of the White Tower, actually. Anyway, he also has 1 unit of Rohan Spearmen, and a pretty cheap Spearmen unit that can somewhat hold the line. 3 units of Airling Swordsmen, again, pretty much the same as the Spearmen, really cheap swordsman unit that Really won't do super great, again, especially against like the heavily armored forces of Isengard, but when supported, they can do fairly well. He also has 2 units of Marshals of the Red, who have very similar attack and defense values to the Lothernok Nobles. However, the main difference that makes these guys much better than the Lothernok Nobles is that they do have 2 hit points. He also has 1 catapult, and he also has 1 unit of Airling Axemen and 2 units of Rittermark Axemen, so some nice AP right there as well. And then to round up his forces, he has 3 units of Helmingast, 2 units of Shield Maidens who are hidden somewhere over here, I believe. And then he also has 1 unit of Kalinor Knights, 2 units of Rohan Nobles, and 1 unit of Rohan Riders who are all hiding. I have no idea where. So anyway, we'll now go over to the army of Honeybun Badger, who, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he does have actually a YouTube channel. I'll go ahead and put the link in his channel below. Anyway, so he has 5 units of Uruk-hai archers who are not to be underestimated. They do have 10 missile damage, so they actually can do pretty well. And because there are 153 of them in the unit, they can, of course, just have massive volley fire pretty quickly as well. 2 units of Uruk-hai pikemen who are always very, very nice. Definitely good at holding line. And if you're attacking, pikes actually aren't a bad idea, especially against like some elite units, because they can actually do a pretty good job of keeping them back while still doing a decent amount of damage. However, they can get shot down relatively easy. He also has 1 ballista. And then he also back here has 1 unit of Uruk-hai infantry and 3 units of Uruk-hai raiders. Similar to the Uruk-hai archers, these guys are really not to be underestimated. They actually are not bad low to mid-tier infantry, especially when supported. He also has 1 unit of Trolls of the White Hand, 2 units of Uruk Reavers, and 1 unit of Nazgûl, 1 unit of Nazgûl Bodyguard, 1 unit of Champions of the White Hand, and 2 units of Warg Riders. The Warg Riders are actually pretty decent, actually, now because they do have 2 hit points, and they, of course, are effective against other cavalry. Now, as the last army we'll go over is the army of Mordor, as I already said, being commanded by Stewed Fungus. Now, he has 1 unit of Melkor's Chosen who look very, very fearsome on, I don't know if they're like wargs, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they almost look like reptilian wargs who look very cool. Not to mention the actual unit model looks very nice up there with the horns. So that is where his general is. You can see the Nazgûl right there. He also has 3 units of Mordor Guard up here in loose formation, 1 unit of Mordor Heavy Maulers who are nice because they are AP, where they have relatively low morale, and of course can get shot down pretty dang easily. He also has 1 unit of Olaghai, always very nice to bring, 1 unit of Mounted Temple Inquisitors, who are a nice melee cav, but obviously can get shot down somewhat easily, even though they do have hit points. He also has 1 unit of Uruk Halberds. Not super bad. They are AP against, well, they are AP, so they're pretty good against armor, like like my Gondor infantry. However, they can get shot down pretty dang easily as well. He also has 3 units of Orc Fodder, 3 units of Uruk Archers, and he also has 2 units of Mounted Numenorean Shield Guard, 1 unit of Morgul Chosen, 1 unit of Numenorean Shadow Bows, I think is what they're called, and 1 unit of normal Numenorean Shield Guard, which is another Spearman unit. But they, of course, are all hiding somewhere in these forests, but you will see them come out later in the battle. So we will go ahead and start the battle off. And to start off, it is mostly my ally that is doing most of the fighting in the beginning, because I actually deployed up next to my ally because I kind of wanted it to be like a bunch of Gondor and Rohan forces mixed together fighting against both Mordor and Isengard. However, that didn't really happen just because the Mordor and Isengard players spawned so far away. But also, I didn't want to like a double team against Isengard because that's pretty scummy. It's a pretty scummy thing to do. However, I do send over a couple units to help out Rohan later in the battle. You can see he's starting out by moving forward his Helmingast. He will also move forward his whole army as well in just a bit here. And you can see over here that Honeybun Badger is putting his archers in loose formation because, of course, once the skirmish fight does begin, if you're not in loose formation, you will take a ton of losses. And the good thing about the Helmingast, actually, they're probably the best, well, yeah, they are the best archer unit that Rohan has at the moment because they actually are AP once they run out of ammo. They pull out axes rather than swords, which, of course, is very nice. You can see some shield mains coming out from hiding, as well as maybe the cav? No, the cav is still staying put somewhere hidden. I must say they look very, very nice. The shield mains, they look cool. I like their shields. So he's just pretty much reforming his whole army at the moment. If I were Honeybun Badger, I might be almost tempted, rather than just defending this kind of choke point, rather, I would almost want to just try to rush forward, at least with my cav, just to try to get a few charges in on those Helmingasts before he had set up his line totally. You actually can't see his cav moving around. I believe they're going to try to go through this huge canyon right here, which is definitely not a bad idea. Yeah, so yeah, sorry about this. It's starting off somewhat slowly. I will speed it up here in a little bit just so we can get straight to the fighting. Yeah, so you can just see the whole Rohan army moving forward. You can see the Airling, Axemen, and Spearmen and Swordsmen right behind the Helmingos. So Reprise is trying to get Isengard to make a move, but they are not going to budge, so he is going to have to make the first move and bring up his skirmishers and some infantry not far behind them. Yeah, you can also see that his catapult is firing. It's actually beginning to fire at Honeybun Badger's ballista. However, because the catapults are rather inaccurate, he is not going to be able to take out any just yet. However, the good thing about the catapults is that they do have a greater range than the ballista, which is very good because the ballista can take out catapults relatively quickly. Over here, you can see that the wargs, I believe, have been hidden. No, they're right here. Yeah, they're just waiting. They're just waiting for their moment to go through the canyon and try to flank around those forces of Rohan. However, the main thing is Rohan, of course, has some very, very elite cavalry. 4 units of it. Well, 3 units of elite cavalry. 1 that's not that good, but still. In a head-to-head like cav engagement, Rohan's cavalry would definitely beat out Isengard's. Unless they are supported by some infantry. However, they are going over there by themselves. So he's going to have to be very careful not to engage the Rohan cavalry just yet. You can see the skirmish phase beginning. You can see the Helmingos firing at the Uruk-hai archers, and the Uruk-hai archers are returning fire. And also the ballista, I believe, was going for... I think it might have been going for the catapult, but I'm not totally sure. Oh, that's just an absolute hail of archers. Okay, yeah, over here. We actually kind of missed it. Stewed Fungus sent over some Mounted Temple Inquisitors right over here, and I was actually firing at them with my ballista. You can see I took about 4 there and then 1 there. And then as soon as they got in range, I just absolutely opened every archer on them as every single archer that I had on them. So they were taken out before they actually were able to do any damage. You can see they did get a small charge off on my Athelian Rangers and Ballistic crew, but it was without many casualties on my side. And you can see Mordor beginning to pull some troops off of that hill. But for the most part, most of the fighting is over here in the beginning. You can see the Ballistic crew is actually taking a lot of casualties from those Helmingos. Not a bad idea, however, it is probably wasting a bit more ammo than he would like, going after just the Ballistic crew rather than the archers. The Helmingos are still relatively healthy though, so it should be fine for now. Oh yeah, that Ballistic crew is just taking a beating. They're down to 16 now. And you can actually see a large number of the Uruk-hai archers have been getting shot down. However, he still has a good amount to spare. You can see he's also trying to pull back his ballista. He doesn't want his crew to get shot any more than it already has. His crew is already down to only 9 left, so it's definitely not good if he loses his ballista this early on, because that will allow my ally to just fire his catapult without any retaliation. See, he actually has moved forward 3 units of Airling Swordsmen as well as a unit of Airling Axemen, all in those formation, who are beginning to get ready to charge. You can see that this unit of Helmingos actually is starting to take quite a few casualties, actually down below 100 now. Also, I was actually told that I should try to find some music in the background, and I do agree that I should. I don't actually use the in-game music because I'm not sure if it's copyrighted or not, and I actually have not been able to find any music that is long enough that is not copyrighted. So I am obviously going to keep trying to look for it, but I'm just going to have to beg a little bit of patience until that time. You can see this unit of Helmingos is actually moving forward. I believe this is the unit that was going after the Ballistic crew, who, as you can see, is now down to 4. You can see some Uruk-hai pikemen being moved forward, as well as another unit of Uruk-hai archers. And because these, you can actually see I have brought over, a unit of veterans of Osgiliath. I'm going to open fire on these Uruk-hai pikemen, who, even though they are pikemen, will not take a whole lot of casualties because they are, of course, very, very heavily armored. Not to mention the fact that the veterans of Osgiliath only do have a 9 missile damage. Yeah, but still taking out a good amount of them before they were able to get into the fight, actually. You see the ballista is actually firing at these Helmingos right here, and you can see a large portion of Rohan infantry beginning to march forward to slow the advance of these Uruk-hai pikemen. However, because all of this stuff is mostly low tier, the Airling Swordsman, Airling Spearman, or Rohan Spearman, stuff like that, will not do well at all against these pikemen, especially if the pikemen are allowed time to set up. You can see over here that the first engagement of the melee forces is beginning to happen. You see some Rohan Spearmen charging into these Uruk-hai pikemen. However, these Rohan Spearmen are really low tier and they are getting shot by some Uruk-hai archers, so they will take a lot of casualties. Where you can see the Airling Axemen are actually doing a nice flanking charge around these pikemen, but Honeybun Badgers is ready for this, and you can see he's just absolutely butchering those Airling Axemen by firing constant volleys straight into the backs of them. Over here, there you can see more pikemen beginning to fight against these Airling Swordsmen, but a second unit of them are just like on the other side flanking around. And so to stop this, Honeybun Badgers is bringing forward 3 units of Uruk-hai Raiders. Actually taking a little bit of catapult fire right there. You can see right here, these poor Airling Axemen are just taking absolute beating from those archers, and not only that, they're actually about to get cycle charged right, well, not cycle charged, charged right in the back by these Uruk-hai Raiders. Ooh, so yeah, that's just absolutely devastating for those Airling Axemen. They'll be cut down very, very easily. We'll very quickly go over here just for a second to see what's going on with Mordor. I believe he's just bringing over some more units of, yeah, he's bringing over most of his army over this one bridge. However, he does have 1 unit of mounted Númenórean shield guard who are extremely fast light cavalry, and because they do have shields, they actually can take archer fire relatively well. And so he actually he did a very good job of learning from his mistake with his mounted Temple Inquisitors, and does not bring them within range for very long anyway of my archers right here. He's actually going to use this unit and bring it all the way over to the Rohan and Isengard fight and actually cycle charge into the back of our archers there, which is definitely not a bad idea. You can see though that these Númenórean shield guard were in range of my archers for a little bit of time, and so they did take a number of casualties. However, they still are relatively healthy and will do a great deal of damage to our archers on this side. And you can see right here that they are completely unprotected, so they will just take an absolute beating from the cycle charges of those units. Of that unit. I'm trying to get my Veterans of Osgiliath to fire at them before, just try to slow the charge a little bit, but unfortunately it did not work too well. Took out a couple, but really not many. Ooh, that's just an absolutely devastating charge right into those Helmingas, which is really unfortunate because, as I said before, they are not bad in melee, similar to the Veterans of Osgiliath, but just probably not quite as good as the Veterans of Osgiliath in melee, but still, you definitely don't want your archers to be cycle charged like that right in the back. He's actually now going to go for the cavalry crew. However, because of these Marshals of the Red, he's going to take a lot of casualties there because the Marshals of the Red are effective against cavalry. You can see there's a huge number of the mounted Númenórean shield guard just dropping right there. But again, they're not going to rest. They're going to keep cycle charging into the backs of our archers, which is really rather unfortunate because the main infantry fight is not looking super great for Rohan. You can see he does have some Rittermark axemen there, but his Airling Swordsmen are pretty much all but dealt with, except for maybe right here in this middle, there's only 72. These Spearmen over here are down to 32, but again, there are some Rittermark axemen there. However, paired with the Uruk-hai pikemen and the raiders, not to mention it looks like some archers who are now out of ammo, the Rittermark axemen will certainly be overwhelmed. You can actually see that unit of Airling Swordsmen just got pretty much instantly broken and routed, just destroyed by that cycle charge right in the back. Again, he's going to charge straight into our archers. Ooh, right into my Veterans of Osgiliath, who also took a couple losses from the ballista crew. I'm trying to fire at this huge blob right here because it is mostly archers, so they will take a lot of casualties from this. Not to mention there are pikemen there that I want to try to take out with my archers as quickly as possible. But yes, and another cycle charge right into the back of the Rittermark axemen, this time again breaking them. So just like that, pretty much the whole infantry front line has been broken. And look at this, a charge right into the back of my Veterans of Osgiliath, who I was trying to run away, but it was just too late, and it took out about like 10 right there, so that was very unfortunate to be sure. However, you can now see that some Rohan cavalry is beginning to come into play. He's got some Rohan nobles trying to go after those Númenórean shield guard. But over here, yes, you can see that the wargs of Honeybun Badgers have come all the way around from that cannon and have just absolutely destroyed this unit of shield maidens, just charging straight into their back. It looks like a unit of War Riders and the Champions of the White Hand. And the other unit of War Riders has actually charged into these Helmingos. So definitely not looking too great for Rohan right now. However, because he was not able to get his Champions of the White Hand out in time, they were caught in melee by these Rohan Riders, who are going to get absolutely butchered. However, it's going to work out in favor actually of Rohan, because it means that these Champions of the White Hand are actually going to just get absolutely wrecked by the Shield Maid's axe. As you can see, a number of them are already dropping. However, you can see some more Warg Riders moving in to help out the Champions of the White Hand, but also in the background you can see some Calnardan Knights and another unit of Rohan Nobles coming into play. You can see he's trying to reform his main infantry line again. He doesn't really have that much infantry left. He still has his Marshals of the Red, and he still has some Helmhammers and some Shield Maidens, but that's pretty much it in terms of infantry. You can see that my Veterans of Osgiliath are still trying to help out. That unit of Uruk-hai Raiders just got absolutely butchered by that charge of the Rohan Nobles. They lost a couple, but really it was definitely worked out in favor of Rohan. Again, I'm trying to target both the pikes and the enemy cavalry at the same time, but it's really not working out too well. I mean, the War Raiders do have hit points, which means they are pretty good against arrows. Ooh, look at that! Oh, those Calnardan Knights just pushed straight through those Uruk-hai archers, just taking out pretty much the entire unit. So even though just a second ago things were not looking very good for Rohan, things are starting to turn back in favor of him just because of how elite his cavalry is, just absolutely taking out units left and right. But you can still see that Isengard is beginning to bring forward his more elite units like the Trolls of the White Hand and some Nazkai and Nazkai Bodyguard. Not to mention some Uruk Reavers. And so I did see the Trolls, so I am bringing over a unit of Pelargir Marines to try to throw some javelins at these Trolls, just to kind of try to help out my ally. These Uruk-hai Raiders will get absolutely butchered by the Marshals of the Red, but the Pikemen will be able to do relatively well against the Marshals. However, you can now see that the Isengard player's cavalry is pretty much completely taken out. He only has 15 Warg Riders there who are getting killed as we speak. And over here, he only has, what is that, 2 Warg Riders. And I believe his Champions of the White Hand are also completely dealt with. You can see that these Shield Maidens who are now out of ammo are actually being committed into the fight against the Uruk-hai Pikemen and Uruk-hai Raiders. This is really mainly just to slow them down, especially because the Shield Maidens only have 8 attack in melee, but they do have pretty high defense. So it's really just to slow the advance of these Uruk-hai infantry before, Uruk-hai Raiders and Pikemen, I should say, of the Isengard infantry before they can get into the Helmhammers, Marshals of the Red, and just kind of surround. Okay, we actually just missed that. I'm sorry about that. My Pelargir Marines were actually able to throw one javelin volley before the Trolls got to them, where you can see a number of them were taken out by the Trolls. But because that actually had shaved off a number of their hit points, the Calnardan Knights were able to charge into the back of these Trolls of White Hand, taking out about 4 Trolls right there. So definitely a very, very good thing for us. See, these Warg Riders, though, are actually coming over to silence my Veterans of Osgiliath, who are trying to give those Shield Maidens some support by just firing to that huge blob and definitely taking out a lot of Uruk-hai. Oh, my goodness, that was weird. Anyway, so the Warg Riders did take out a few of my Veterans of Osgiliath. However, in melee, the Warg Riders will get cut down, as you can see, relatively quickly by my Veterans. You can see the Rohan Riders are now only down to 9 after their engagement with those Warg Riders. You see the Uruk Reavers actually getting a charge straight from the front of those Calnardan Knights. Now, the Uruk Reavers do have effectiveness against cavalry. However, anything that even if it has effectiveness against cavalry will take an absolute beating from a cycle charge. Right here, you can see the Uruk-hai Raiders and Pikemen just getting routed right there. Well, the Pikemen are still going strong, but I believe the Raiders have broken. Or they're just all dead. I don't even know what happened to them. But yeah, because the Pikemen are now pretty much by themselves, except for a few Uruk-hai archers, they are going to get cut down relatively quickly.
Only half the enemy force remains.
Jeez, I feel like I've said relatively like about a million times. I don't know, it's like one of my favorite words. No, anyway. One of the catapults has been taken out by the Isengard Ballista. So yes, you can see most of the elites are being committed now. All of the Trolls are dead, but you can see some Nazkai Bodyguard being closely preceded by some Nazkai, normal Nazkai, who are going to fight against the Marshals of the Red and Helmhammers. Now, the Nazkai bodyguard and Nazkai would be able to do very well against the Marshals of the Red had they been given support. However, because they are by themselves, they will not be able to nearly as well had they been given support. But really, they just Honeybud Badgers just really doesn't have much left that he can give support to. Now, you can see, yeah, the Nazgai bodyguard just took an absolute devastating charge right there. But you can see over here on my side that we are actually about to engage in the main melee fight. You can see I've brought forward 3 units of Gondor infantry out here to kind of stop these Uruk archers. I don't know if they were meaning to get that close. Maybe it was because of the hill that they couldn't actually fire at my own archers. But they actually got very, very close, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. But yes, you can see that he's going to pull them back, and he is going to commit some more infantry in the meantime. And you can see his second unit of Mounted Numer and Shield Guard trying to swing, I assume, all the way around to try to get into my Losternock nobles or any of my elites over here. Anyway, we'll go back now to the fight with Rohan. Over here, though, you can see that the shield mains are pretty much all but dealt with. However, you can see that my veterans of Osgiliath definitely took a large portion of the forces down right here with their arrows. However, this is mostly just Uruk raiders and some archers. Oh! The Kalnar Knights just charged down the Nazkai bodyguard again, actually killing the general, which that is definitely very good for our team. Still fighting as hard as they can against the Marshal of the Red and stuff. Over here, though, you can actually see that the Rohan nobles were actually surrounded by the Uruk Reavers and Uruk-hai infantry. Now, unless they are able to get out quickly, they will die very, very, very easily because of the effectiveness against cavalry that the Uruk Reavers has. Now, normally the Rohan nobles will do very well against pretty much anything in just prolonged melee. However, because of that effectiveness against cavalry, they were cut down pretty effectively. I wanted to say relatively again, but I didn't, because I assume it might be getting a little bit annoying. Yes, actually, those 23 Uruk-hai pikemen are now routing, including, and as well as the Uruk-hai raiders who were all fighting the shield maidens. Over at this time, my veterans of Osgiliath are actually out of ammo, and I lost Micro, my Pelargir Marines, who were not able to throw a javelin volley into those Uruk Reavers before they got charged. And the reason for that is because the fight has begun in full over here against Mordor. You can see some Mordor Moron Guard fighting against my infantry here, some Moron Heavy Maulers fighting against my infantry over here. You can see some Orc Bandit stuff on the flank. Now, actually, the Mounted Numer and Shield Guard stopped right here, right next to my hidden Pelargir Marines, so all of these dead ones right here are because of my javelins. However, they were able to get a charge off into my Pelargir Marines, which did take out a number of them, but I actually am able to surround them with my Axemen of Losternock, which will pretty much deal with all of his cavalry, besides the Melkor's Chosen, of course. You can see the skirmish is still going on strong. My Athenian Rangers are trying to do their best against the Uruk archers and the like. Also, my veterans of Osgiliath are continuing to fire. My veterans of Osgiliath actually really just butchered this poor unit of Uruk halberds who are already down to 79 and wavering. And I also have my Losternock nobles up in here because I wanted to keep my veterans of Osgiliath firing as long as possible, so I did run them away and then commit my Losternock nobles to the fight. You can see some Uruk bodyguard actually over there menacing against my hidden Citadel bodyguard and Gondor infantry. I did not want to attack them just yet because even though they do not look like much, they actually are they're a very good unit. And actually, my Gondor infantry will do very well in all these fights. You can see the Moron Heavy Maulers are taking a beating, already down to less than 100. Over here, the Moron Guard are faring pretty much the same. And I was actually totally fine with him focusing down my Shield Fountain Guard with their arrows because they have massive shields, hit points, so they will be able to soak up arrow fire very well. Very, very well. And he actually moved forward his Ologhai without any support. I assume he was going after my Pelargir Marines as that one is trying to charge him. But they will get cut down actually very, very quickly by my Shielded Fountain Guard and Gondor Infantry because the Shielded Fountain Guard are AP. And over here, though, you can see some Orc fodder fighting against my Axemen of Losternock. Even though the Axemen of Losternock were outnumbered, they still did very well. However, you can see they are beginning to fall very quickly to the volleys of the Numenor Shadow Guard firing straight into their flank. So I need to definitely silence them as quickly as possible. You can see that already don't know if there's 9 or if there's 7. Already a few of the Orkai have fallen. I actually made my Ithilien Rangers use flaming arrows just to try to break those Orc fodder and Mordor heavy maulers, which actually did work. However, he was ready for this and brought up some Numenor and Shield Guard and some Morgul's Chosen to recommit to the main fight. You see, the Numenor and Shield Guard were actually trying to go after, I believe, my general, or maybe the Ithilien Rangers. However, they actually it was only half of the unit that got through, which means they were cut down relatively easily by my Wardens of the White Tower. Over here, though, you can see that the Uruk Bodyguard are in full fight against my Citadel Bodyguard and my Lothernok Nobles and a unit of Gondor Infantry, who are completely surrounding the Uruk Bodyguard. However, yes, look at that. An excellent charge by the Melkor's Chosen right into my Lothernok Nobles, taking a huge number of them out. Not to mention the Uruk Archers are firing straight into the back of my Lothernok Nobles, which will kill a great many of them, which is why I am returning fire with my Veterans of Osgiliath. The Gondor Infantry will be able to do reasonably well against the Morgul Chosen because they don't have very high attack values. However, after time they would have been beaten. You can see the Mordor Guard are being cut down, so he is actually having to commit some Uruk Archers into the melee. Also over here you can see that his Numenor and Shadow Guard are now actually going to be getting attacked in melee because all of the trolls are dead. You can see he's kind of, I believe he might be losing a little bit of micro here because he is just kind of leaving some units like the Orc Fodder and more non-heavy maulers just out here. But it doesn't really matter because this game is definitely very, very hard to micro sometimes. Now, these Melkor's Chosen are just absolutely insane. Actually, you can see some Rohirrim forces coming over here because Isengard has been pretty much completely dealt with. I'll pause it for just a second to go over here and look. I believe that the last... Yeah, they were saying that that Isengard's last unit was actually Saruman himself, but I can't seem to find him. So I'll just go back to the fight over here. But yeah, now that Isengard has been dealt with, and oh, a nice javelin volley into those more non-heavy maulers by my Pillar Gear Marines. But anyway, now that Isengard has been dealt with, you can see that Rohan's cavalry is going to try to cycle charge into the archers and into the main infantry line of Mordor, which is definitely going to help me out a lot. You see actually that the Kalnar Knights are taking a lot of casualties to those Melkor's Chosen. Even the Rohan nobles will not be able to fare very well against the Melkor's Chosen either. Over here, though, you can see that the Uruk Bodyguard are completely surrounded. However, because they are very good, they will be able to keep fighting for quite some time. You can see that my unit of Veterans of Osgiliath that was over helping Rohan has now come over here to help in this main fight, because I do see that I am starting to thin a little bit right here. You can see the Rohan nobles just wreaking havoc amongst the back lines of the Mordor player's army. And my Veterans of Osgiliath are now going to fight against the Morgul Chosen. Now this right here is actually going to break all of these archers. Yeah. And then over here, I was actually very, very surprised on how well these Numenor Shadow Guard actually were able to fight in melee. I didn't know that they were actually this good in melee. And I mean, of course, if I had been a little bit better at microing them, I would have been able to surround them with these units instead of just blowing up in front, but still. Yeah, so you can see that it is definitely turning in favor of the good forces at the moment. You can see that Mordor is starting to lose forces quickly, and the percentage is 62% allies killed to 87% enemies killed. So it is definitely looking good for us. You can see there's still 10 Melkor's Chosen and just a pile of dead Rohan nobles right there. My Axemen of Lothernok, that is Isengard, by the way, admitting defeat. My Lothernok nobles are again not going to catch any breaks, getting another cycle charge right into the back by those Melkor's Chosen. Very, very devastating indeed. There were like 30, I believe now there are only, yeah, like 10, so. 11? No, 8 now, jeez. Yeah, I actually have committed my Wardens of the White Tower as well. I've pretty much committed everything at this point, and I've been using my Ithilien Rangers to try to focus down those Melkor's Chosen as much as possible. And you can see that I am starting to surround what's left of his actual infantry. The Mordor Guard here are wavering, Numenor Shield Guard are down to 19. And over here, the Shadow Guard actually were able to run away in melee with still 26 left and begin firing at my poor Axemen of Lothernok, who are going to take a lot of casualties because they are a shock infantry unit with low defense values. However, I will be able to chase them down with my Gondor infantry and Pelargir Marines before very long. You can see that this unit of Uruk Archers is now broken and fighting to the death. And over here, the Shadow Guard are wavering, and the Mordor Guard have broken. Pretty much the only area where it's looking very good for Mordor, well, better I guess for Mordor, is right here with the Morgul Chosen, who are still fighting very strongly against my Gondor infantry, Wardens of the White Tower, and veterans of Osgiliath. My other unit, veterans of Osgiliath, I'm trying to use to chase down these 4 Melkor's Chosen because they just keep cycle charging like crazy. But because they are, of course, infantry, they're not going to be able to chase them down very effectively. And what's left of Rohan is very courteously, I can't speak today for some reason. Yeah, is actually not going to surround anything yet because he is allowing me to just kind of rack up a few more kills before the battle ends, which is of course very nice. And you can see that the Stewed Fungus is actually changing targets with his Melkor's Chosen. He is now going to cycle charge into this catapult crew. The poor catapult crew is not going to catch any breaks here at the end of the battle, which is rather unfortunate because it is towards the end of the battle, so I do feel bad for those guys. You can see that of the 3 remaining Melkor's Chosen, 1 actually is in fact the general, which of course I assume definitely helps the fact, well, is probably why some of the units are not routing. But you can see now that the Morgul Chosen are dropping very quickly, and the Sons of Argonath, my Sons of Argonath, are now charging into the back of them, which will essentially put the nail in the coffin for that unit. You can see now, though, that the only places where there is any infantry fighting is right here. There are still 7 Uruk bodyguard. The Morgul Chosen are being cut down right there. And then all over the place, the rest of my stuff is just chasing down routing troops. You can see the Morgul Chosen still just tanking arrows left and right, but they are going to now charge into my Ithilien Rangers, who will not do well at all, unfortunately, against them in melee. You can see them just popping out their swords like that. Pretty cool. Ooh. Yeah, so he's actually going to switch targets. I believe he's going to go for my ballistic crew. I think. No, he's actually going to, yeah. So, in my opinion, cavalry in this game is a little bit OP. Just because this unit of Melkor's Chosen is down to 3, right? That unit of Melkor's Chosen is down to 3 men left. And not only had they been fighting in melee, like right here for a while, they had been fighting against Rohan nobles who are effectively its cavalry, and they had been fighting over here. They still, even though there were only 3 of them left, were able to take out 9 Wardens of the White Tower who have 2 hit points and everything. So, I don't know, it's a little odd to me. And they did only take 1 casualty after that. But you can see that there is now only 1 Melkor's Chosen left. And there it goes, being cut down by my veterans of Osgiliath. Over here, though, you can see, yeah, that my, yeah, that what had been fighting the Uruk Bodyguard are still here. I believe I still have 3 Axemen of Losternock that were over here, still fighting. Yeah, still, definitely a fun battle. So I had 2,300 men deployed, 1,900 kills. Reprise had 2,100 men deployed, 2,157 kills. And Honeybun Badgers had 1,600 kills, and Stewed Fungus had 1,056 kills. So, I'll take a quick look at the exact kills. My veterans of Osgiliath did very well, 130 and 173 respectively. My Ithilien Rangers didn't do bad at all, 171. And some of my Gondor infantry did very well, but I believe that was because those were the units fighting against the Orc Fodder and Mordor Guard. Also, my Axemen of Losternock, who fought against the Orc Fodder, managed to get themselves 173 kills. So, yeah, definitely a fun battle. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you didn't, please just tell me in the comments what I did wrong, and I'll be sure to fix it for the next one. So yeah, anyway, it was very cool because the age-old alliance of Gondor and Rohan did stand firm, and they were this day victorious. So guys, farewell wherever you fare, till your eyries receive you at your journey's end.